we finally got Marty, who comes and goes in the club. He visits for a while, stays, and he gets preoccupied with other things, and then he comes back. And now he's back, so I snagged him the day he walked in to do our Meet the Artist, and he is a caricature or cartoonist. I don't know if you really say cartoonist.
Yeah, well, I'm into advertising, and I get into caricatures,
And so he brought,
do some painting.
yeah, he brought some of his work, a little different venue for most of us, I think, and
All right.
go ahead, start. Now, you want to start like how you became an artist, or if you always wanted to be an artist since kindergarten, or whatever.
Yeah, basically I had my father here too. He's sitting right there, and he was always in advertising, so I kind of grew up with it. And then when I went to college, I wanted to be a cop. So I started at Farmingdale. When it was a 2-year school. I went for a year and a half, and I decided not for me. And I switched over to advertising, and I started going at night. And I was going to start going full time in the spring, and but the fall semester. And I asked my father, coming from Manhattan, working all his life in there, and he says, who wants to teach it? The guys that can't do it teach it. So, and I was like, all right. And we didn't know any teachers at the time. And now I'm married to one. We hang out with teachers all the time. And it's like, there would have been nice, 3 years, you get tenure, you can't get fired.
Yeah.
Summer's off. But, so anyway, I got into advertising, and, I still do it. And, I'm ready to, I'm ready to put that behind me, but we still have to do it for another eight or so years.
You do it as your regular job? Or freelance?
I work full time.
Oh, okay.
And about the same time, that was like in '76, I graduated from high school. So I was getting into caricatures then because when I was still in high school, I went down to Disney and I was watching the guys down there do it. And it just looked like fun the first time I saw anybody doing it. And then I came back and I started drawing from like record covers and magazines and stuff like that. And drawing family and friends, building up. And then I set up at a flea market on Route 110. And not the big one, but the one down by where the movie theater is now, by Republic Airport. And they have a little one there. So I set up there, and that was the best. It was just people coming up, and you had no idea who was coming. And you sat there and started drawing them. And, I had this one guy once that just came in, a real big guy with a beard and everything, and he just came in through the crowd and sat down, didn't say a word. And this is my first day doing them, and I was having fun drawing kids and everything. All of a sudden, this guy comes, he's like a big biker, and he had like an afro and dark glasses and a beard and mustache, because he was his nose. And so I drew him, and I was kind of like a little shaky, and just like trying to do him and get it done. And I gave it to him, and he just looked at it without a word. He got up, he disappeared into the crowd, and I was just thinking like, good. And I was waiting for the next person, and then he came back, and he came back, and he gave me the money and paid me, and he shook my hand and said thanks, and he walked away, and the whole crowd, you could hear like, It was like such a relief. It was like, okay. And then, so that was like my first time out doing it. And then, so I did that for a couple of months, during that winter. And then the following spring, right across from Farmingdale College, that place Adventureland, I had a bunch of my samples, and I went there. And I went over the portfolio, like black things about so big. And I asked around. They told me to go upstairs, talk to a guy named Angelo. And so I went in where they have a carousel in that building, found the stairway, and knocked on a door, and the guy says, come in. And there's a guy sitting there behind a desk, and the desk was almost like this. It had nothing but a telephone on it. And so I went up and I said, hi, I said to ask for you, you're Angelo. And I said, I want to see about doing caricatures, at the park here. And at the same time, I was putting my portfolio on his desk and starting to unzip it. And he goes, get that out of here, with a real Italian accent. He's like, how do you want to see it? He goes, if you weren't any good, you wouldn't be here. He goes, just give me 20% and come whenever you want. So that was my introduction to like, wow, okay. And And then, so some nights there, I was there for a couple summers, and it was good because actually it was a good experience too, you know, and like doing live, and yeah, I like doing things live as opposed to doing them from photographs. I find it a lot harder, you know, and I'll show you a lot of samples of this stuff. But basically, you know, it was like watercolors also, you know, and that's, you know, I do kind of like cartoon type of stuff, and then I start doing the caricatures with watercolors, and you know, you'll see some of those, and then I start doing real paintings like you guys do. I'll show you some of those. But yeah, this is like what I do full time. You know, a lot of different brochures and a lot of stuff on the computer now. You know, this is all like a disc. There's a company I work for, but it's like a disc of all their products, and basically it was like animated where they could put it into like a kiosk, and it would just kind of run, and people could push buttons and go different places and see different things. So I kind of get into a little bit of programming and stuff like that too.
Can we pass that around, some of those brochures?
Yeah, well, these are really nothing, you know, these aren't really worth passing around, but you can look at them if you want. But I just want to show you a few other things first. You know, this was another thing that actually I worked on with my father, you know, and at the bottom, you know, came up with the thing like across the country. And you know, what was interesting about this was the guy that owned the company, he was like a real character. And he had this thing that he found that was really cool. It was like a little device that you would put like a little thing in that you squeezed, and you could record like up to, I think it was like 15, 20 seconds or something. So you could record a message, you know, and then he would tape it to these things and do different messages for different people and send them out. And then they'd get it and they'd hit it and hear his voice, you know. And you know, then I started promoting that, and I got actually a couple of things. This is a thing for like an actor that you know, he saw it and he wanted it too, you know. So got the thing. He was sending this out also, making his own things, and I did the picture of him from a photograph, you know. And he wanted kind of like that, like a realistic type of thing. And then I just bought this thing because it was a fun job. Again, this is one, we had a little agency, me and my father, for a while, you know. And before I had kids and had to work full-time to get benefits. But this thing was another company, they make these grills, like when in the malls, when the stores close, they pull down the things. And they were going into New Jersey. So, you know, it opened up to something like this. And then when it opened up, this was the sales guy that was going to be covering New Jersey. So, you know, we did that, you know. And basically, what ends up happening was, after it was all printed and mailed out and everything, the guy that owned the company, he called me in for another job. And I went there and he showed me this, and he throws this in my face, and he's like, there's a mistake. I'm like, what? You know, so I start looking through it and everything, and I couldn't find it. So he's like, New Jersey's backwards. So it's backwards over here, it's backwards over there. And this was one of the first jobs when I got into the computer that, you know, I got into, I bought my first Mac like in '87, like just starting to come out, you know. And they didn't really have like the internet then, they didn't have clip art, you know, like, so I basically found, like I did a sketch, a tracing of New Jersey, I put it on the monitor, and I, like in the drawing program, I looked through it and drew it, you know, to get like the state of New Jersey, but I had a flop, and I didn't realize it, you know. So basically the guy says, it was one of those great things, because the guy says, I was like, oh no, you know, it's printed, and you know, we did thousands of them. And he's like, no, he says, it worked out great. He said, because we sent these out, and we're not even following up with phone calls. They're calling us to tell us they're just backwards. And then we start talking to them, and we get the sales. You know? So it worked out great. So I don't know how many states you can do that with.
A mistake.
Yeah, so I don't know how many states you could do that with, but you know, it is a good trick. And then I was in Computer Club, and this was their like a newsletter that they would send out all the time. And for about a year, I started doing like little cartoons of like kind of like little comic strip things, of mostly based on people who were in the club, you know, kind of like caricatures of them, and, you know, whatever it was that they were doing a month, you know, and just making know, so that was fun. I mean, it was just like, you know, on my own, you know, but it got you thinking like every month, like try to think of something new. And then I did, I used to do, when I first got married, I used to do, you know, like Christmas cards for me and my wife that we'd send out.
I don't think they could see some of them back there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, you know, whatever, I don't know if you want to pass these around now, or you can come up and look at them later.
You can pass them around now while you're talking.
All right.
This way, they get an idea of what you're doing.
Yeah, and then here's,
Yeah, that's nice.
yeah, then, this was for an ambulance company that, for a couple of years, I was doing, like Christmas cards for them. And this one time, you know, we did this. It's like an ambulance, the ambulance doors that opened.
Oh.
And they had a Santa Claus in here, being worked on.
Cute.
Sure. That's nice.
And,
Do you find there's, that you really had to change your work habit with computers? You know, the graphics and that? I mean, were you sort of on that midline between handwork with advertising and computers, or
yeah, well,
did you get in when computers were pretty established already?
no, the computers are pretty new. Like the Mac, the Macs, you know, I got in like in '87, and Mac was fairly new, and they were small. The first thing I did when I got a computer was I had to go out and take a typing course.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I first got a computer, I had to go out and take a typing course because I had no idea how to type, and I realized it's not typing. So, you know, I did that. But I always tried to work on artwork and cartoons whenever I could into things, you know. These are some early, I don't know, these are just some early cartoons and watercolors.
Colors.
Those are doing markers and, you know, watercolors and markers, a combination.
Very nice.
Okay, Marty, everyone's ready to hold something, hold it for John in the
Oh, yeah,
camera,
sure.
so he can.
This is like a wicked, it's a wicked.
Yeah, actually, there's a little story behind this one. But,
Wow, that's nice.
yeah, this was again when I, you know, got into computers, and I ended up getting lucky. I got a job. I worked, like mostly in the 80s, I worked for a publishing company, which in Hot Pot, I won't say the name, but it was the worst job I ever had in the world. And everybody there was a big turnover there, and I was there for 5 years until I finally got fired. And then I felt like I was paroled, because I got unemployment then. And during those 6 months of unemployment, I basically learned this program called Flash. It's like an animation program. And, you know, this is like one of the things I did. I was trying to fool around making little games.
I like the way you got the pumpkins popping out at us there.
Well, yeah, what I did with this is I retouched out the witches, and I you know, put like this tree on a separate layer, and the pumpkins I put on a separate layer. And then I had, like the witches, I kind of animated where they would fly, and you kind of shoot them and try to melt them, you know?
Pass that around.
But yes, that was like that, and then just a couple other things I could show also along the lines of that. But I ended up getting a job in an internet startup company, and that was like the best job I ever had. Went from the worst job to the best job. And that was
That's how it happens sometimes, right?
Yeah, and that was in the year 2000, and it started there in January because they just opened up a new building and everything. And by that, I think it was April, was when the bottom fell out of the internet stuff, and they started, you know, letting everybody go. So I was one of the last ones they let go of, like that September. And you know, then I stayed with the web and, you know, did freelancing and stuff like that. You know. Yeah, this is another. This was like a quick little watercolor and marker, but I did this in my car when I was waiting for gas. This was like the guy ahead of me, and then I took it home and I finished it. You know. But I did it really quick, you know, and yeah, you know, it's all out of proportion and everything, but it was fun. And this is more recent.
Baseball?
Yeah, it's a baseball catcher catching a fireball.
Oh,
It's like a ball of fire coming in.
Oh, okay. Now, are these just original pieces for you, for yourself, for artwork?
Yeah,
or
like I did some for the web, you know,
Okay.
things like that. That one, my uncle wanted that actually, because he's a big baseball fan. You know, so he wanted something like that, so I did that for him.
that's a little watercolor and,
That's a watercolor, yeah.
yes,
That's just watercolor. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, this is, I even tried getting into the whole thing with children's books for a
Okay.
short time. And I looked at, I was reading up on what he's supposed to do, you know, and everything. And, so I sent this out and, you know, of course, nothing happened with it. So, you know, I didn't bother trying that
Yeah.
route again.
All right. You know, a lot of them, they kept getting turned down, they get turned down maybe 75 times, and 76 times somebody accepts it.
Yeah.
You
No, I know, you hear all the stories where they get like a big pile of stuff on their desk and,
Yeah.
you know, if they had a cup of coffee and if everything went good that day and they're in the right mood and everything, and they just happen to pick up your thing, you know, whatever. So. Anyway, yeah, this is like my homepage for my website. You know, like this is the first, one of the first things you come to when you get to the website. It's lots of samples, you know, different things.
Do you get many calls on your website?
Yeah, actually, I used to be in the phone book for years, like all through the 80s and 90s,
Okay.
and you know, the Suffolk book. But then the Suffolk book, you know, like back in the 90s, the Suffolk book broke into 2 books
Okay.
or more, right? It didn't break into 4 books. Yeah, and that was crazy, you know. And then that was like I was already into computers by 78, 77, 78.
Okay.
And then around 95, when Suffolk book broke into all the different books, that was when the internet, the very early stages of the internet started. And that webpage was the first one that I made, and I just keep on updating it. I just kept
And
it
you
that
get
way.
many calls from people?
Yeah, I'm out of the phone book now. Everything I get is pretty much from the web. Yeah.
Nice.
And being on the web, it's also, like I have a map, well, further down that page, I made like an animation, like one of those radar maps that you see in like the war movies. You know?
Okay.
And I have it from like the tri-state area. The thing goes around, it has dots all over Long Island, you know, Lower Connecticut and parts of
Gotta
Jersey.
check that out.
Yeah, so
that's
that
nice.
just, you know, shows like the range that I go in. And I get calls from Jersey, Westchester, and Connecticut, you know. So I charge extra, you know, to travel, but I
Yeah.
do them.
Very
And
good.
you'll see one of the paintings is one I did just recently, when I was in a
Okay.
snowstorm going to Jersey. Yeah, this is at a party. Actually, these were all the same party. This is a fun party. It was different because it was a divorce party. And I think over here somewhere I have the big one, the original. I went to her house.
Really good.
You know, like I'd rather go, you know, from photos, if I could, I'd rather go to meet the people in person. And she lived really close by. So I went to her house one night and I just sketched her out, you know, and you know, that way, you know, they like the picture, you know. And, you know, basically I did her head and talked to her and found out what she liked to do as far as the background and everything. And I think I have a blow up of this, I'll show you in a minute. Let's see. I should have that right after it. Yeah, well, whatever. But, yeah, this is at a wedding.
Oh,
It's
wow.
getting more fashionable at weddings also now. And, you know, so that's great because at weddings you get tips, you know, as opposed to some of the parties with little kids, you know. Yeah, this was at a, yeah, this guy just, he just looked cool with his head, you know. But, yeah, this was at a, you know, just recently at a 50th birthday for some guy's wife, you know. They were guests that were there. And then at a wedding, I was doing a whole group, sometimes you do groups of women and men, you know. So I remember doing this one group of women, and I have with me like a lot of pre-drawn backgrounds that show people if they want, they could do, like mostly couples, you know. So, you know, I'm sitting there drawing this group of women, and one of the women says, oh, you know what you need? You need a background with, you know, the woman doing all the laundry and everything, and the guy sitting there with his remote, you know. So I did. I made up a pre-drawn background like that. And, you know, I take this with me now. And this was at a bar mitzvah that these two, they picked that one, you know.
Nice.
So,
That's a good idea, yeah.
and then I joined, one of these clubs that comes and goes. But I joined the thing called the National Caricaturist Network. And they changed the name now because it got huge, you know. But they have conventions every year. And I don't know, probably around 2003 and 2004, I went to the one in 2003, one in 2004, back to back. And they were both in Orlando. And about 200 people go to these things. And they're from like all over the world, you know, mostly Americans, but they get a lot of Japanese and people from Europe and everything. And this was fun. What they did, this was like, you know, a little collage I made. But what they do is they give you, you're in like a big catering hall, and they give you a big section of wall. You know, it's like, and they tape it off with like blue tape, you know. So you get like about, you know, a piece of blue tape, you know, probably about this wide, you know, or maybe a little bit narrower than this. So you can go as high as you want, but you stay within the tape lines, and throughout the week, you get pictures there, you know. And during the week, they have all different competitions, like you know, exaggeration, likeness, all different.
Are those the different artists?
These are other artists that were there, and throughout the week, everybody draws each other, you know.
And that's their work that they're holding?
Well, that's my work that they're holding.
Your
them.
work? Okay.
Yeah. So, like, you know, this is him. She was fun. She was a Japanese girl. She knew no English, and you know, I drew her, and I put the antennas on with a little UFO coming in, and she liked it. And I'll show you the one that she followed up with me in a little while. I took a couple pictures. I took a couple pictures, and the people did me too. But, so that was the first year, and when you go to this thing, you like totally, you feel like you want to go home that night, you know, it's the first day, because you're not used to it. Everybody gets like shell shocked because like you draw pictures, and like, I don't really exaggerate much, you know. It's just, you know, you don't want to really make fun of people at a party, you know.
Yeah.
And some people thrive on that, you know. They're like, you know, some people even brag that they got kicked out of parties. You know, just to leave, you know. Because they just love to exaggerate. You know? So the second year I went there, I instead of doing markers, I did watercolors, because that's like this. And this is that Japanese girl. She was there again. So I made
see that one?
yes, I made it like a color forms thing, you know, where you could cut these out, and, you know, the bodies and the hair.
Oh, right.
But she always had a head shape. Yeah, this is the first one.
Okay.
So that was the first year and second year. But that's what they say with that, like, you know, the second year, you want to do different things, because that's like the place where you could experiment, you know.
Yeah.
In the first year, everybody was very intimidated. But these are some caricatures of me that other people did. And these two are from two different artists, but they're both done on the computer.
Ladies,
Yeah. But like with this, like when you go there, a lot of people do like, you know, markers, pastels, watercolors, and then they just were getting into just, like back in 2002, people were just starting to get you know, computer programs then that could work on laptops. So, you know, a lot of people do that now. So these were two separate artists that were doing that, you know, early.
Now that first one there, was that done with pastel?
No, these are done on computer.
On a computer?
Yeah, this is what you get. You don't get an original, you get the printout.
So how do they have the computer in front of them?
Yeah, you get like a laptop computer, and then you get like a tablet, and they would sit there and hold the tablet and draw it, and you know, you kind of see it on a laptop, but you kind of draw it and look at it. It's weird.
And then you're printing it out, then you
Yeah.
get the printout. You draw it
And
on
then
an iPad.
it prints it out then after you're done?
Well, that was before iPads and everything, yeah. But you know,
Okay.
that was on laptops, you know. But they do it on iPads now too. You know, iPads are
Is
even
it
easy.
an app that you could put on your?
Well, nowadays, you know, they have apps for iPads that people do this with. Yeah. And you get the stylus, you know. But, you know, one of the cool things about this is like, I've seen where if they're doing like a trade show or something, they could actually, even if the company has like a really intricate logo, you could put the logo all over in the background, you could do anything with it, do that all ahead of time,
Yeah.
you know? And then just put the people in, and, you know, in front of it. Yeah, this is another caricature from one of my friends. You know, that's like his style, you know?
Uh-huh.
And, you know, that was okay. There's another one from somebody.
That's not supposed to be you.
Yeah, I know, there was some that were really down, and some that were really great, you know? But this is one from the Japanese girl, right?
Oh.
And it's like this, right?
Yeah.
And you turn it.
You know, it flips.
Oh.
And it flips open to this.
Wow.
So she made me like an alien
Yeah.
thing too. So that one was a fun one. And then, now this was pretty recent, and this is something I want to start getting into. I was going to do a wedding. You know, this is the bride and groom, so this is the picture I did for them. It was in Nassau County at this place called Nunley's, right by all the, you know, behind like the Coliseum. They have museums there, and right next to I think the Airplane Museum or something. They set up this carousel. They set up this Ferris wheel like in the parking lot with the carousel's behind me, you know, behind everybody here, and they have weddings there. And so she booked me for the wedding, and then a couple of days ahead of time before the wedding, she asked, could you, you know, she's like, I was looking through your website and I see that you like doing paintings like on the spot, you know. Could you like paint us getting married? So I was like, okay, you know, it sounds like fun, you know. So I went there early, and you know, they had all the chairs set up and everything, and I was just sitting there and the Ferris wheel is there, and I should have got there earlier because all of a sudden people started coming, people started sitting down, and I'm just starting to sketch the thing out like a little bit, and all of a sudden everybody's there, and you know, they're walking down the aisle, and I'm like, I really should have got here a lot earlier, you know. So I ended up doing like a thing of watercolor, and I used like a little bit of I have like a thin marker that I like that you know, kind of fuzzes out. It's not really waterproof, you know. So I kind of did the backs of heads and some of the sketches like that. And so basically I did this, and I'll show you the picture. And then after I did this, you know, did this and finished it, that's me sitting there sketching. You know, I did you know, caricatures of the people who wanted it, you know. And I was like standing up. They wanted me to walk around and do them.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of times that would work at a wedding, you know. But with this, like, it was crazy because I started walking around, but then everybody lined up. So I was like standing there, and people were just coming and leaving, coming and leaving. There was a big line.
That's
So
funny.
we could have been sitting down the whole time. Yeah, so that was then, and then this is the picture.
The Ferris wheel.
And, you know, like, whatever, like, I worked on that, you know, tried to rough them in as quick as I could, you know, and, you know, so I did it in watercolor, and, this is like a whole other genre, you know. There's people, if you go on the web and you look up, live event painting, there's a lot of people, and actually 2 weekends ago, for the first time, I didn't have my camera with me. I usually take my camera, but I did a little bar mitzvah at the place in Eisenhower Park. There's a catering hall there.
Yeah.
And I get set up, and I see a guy in the corner, you know, with an easel, and he's like facing out into the room, and I knew right away, that's one of these guys, you know.
Yeah.
So I went over and I started talking to him, and, you know, like I knew when these guys do this stuff, they work in acrylics, because that way you go there early, you paint the room, and as people come in, you just paint them over whatever you have painted already, you know.
Right.
And
So did the background first.
yeah, so that's what he was doing. He got there, I don't know, I started like a 7, I think he got there like a 3,
Wow.
which he said he doesn't usually, you know, he said if the room is vacant, he'll go early and just get a good start. He said if there's another party, then he'll have to go whenever he can, you know, like an hour early if someone started, you know.
Yeah.
Did you have the Ferris wheel done first before then people came?
I just started sketching, you know, like, well, then I do with the markers, yeah, this, I think I started this first, you know, because as I was doing this, like, everybody started sitting down and everything, And, you know, then I had to get up and, you know, move to the middle of the aisle so I could at least kind of see what they look like. And, you know, I don't know if I'm this around that.
I see that, that's nice.
But that's one of the things that I'd love to start doing.
You gotta be
is,
fast though, right, with the moving around like that?
Yeah. But anyways, I like doing, you know, I like fooling around with, you know, plein air painting. And I went one day with, I woke up one morning and, it was really thick fog,
Yeah.
like last spring. So I went with one of my friends and went over to the Kings Park Psychiatric Center. And so I set up to do paintings, and I don't know if you can see it, but like all of a sudden these ghosts appeared, and they ran away. No, but I have this on my website. It's like I made it like a little animation. You know, so it looks like, you know, I actually had 2 tripods with the camera, and I filmed myself, and you know, then I took a couple of still pictures and kind of, you know, put these ghosts in so it looks like I'm running past them. and when it animates it, you know, it looks like even this guy over here kind of open in the background, like he moves a little bit too, you know. So, cool. Yeah, it was like a fun thing.
Now, when you talk about event painting as opposed to doing caricatures at a wedding, are you talking about an event painting being strictly outside?
No, they set up inside. They do it mostly at weddings and bar mitzvahs. And
so it's basically like a getting a wedding, but it's not.
It's like instead of a photograph, an overall photograph of somebody would take, it's like a painting of it, you know. So what you do is like you set up in the corner, you go early, you set up, you kind of paint the room, and then as people come in, like the guy, he had a, you know, off in like the left-hand corner, he would take pictures of certain people, like, you know, the mother and father, and then the kids, and then like the aunts and uncles that they wanted to feature in the painting. He would take pictures of them, and he had like, you know, the monitor on the camera there also. And he also would try to get the people to stand there for a little while.
And he started painting.
And he would, you know, kind of quickly, he was catching them pretty good, but he would kind of quickly, like he had the whole scene painted, and he would go with a brush, kind of like you know, he's very quick, little like a gray little square for a head, and like a little, almost like stick figures where he was going to place people.
Yeah.
And then he would, you know, get them to stand there for a little while, and he would start them, you know, like the faces, and he would take pictures of them, and then, you know, kind of work on that group. And he had like the family, like the mother, father, and the 2 kids, kind of off into the left-hand corner, you know, like standing there facing. And then he, around some of the tables he had painted, he would kind of put people in, and, you know, have, like, he would ask, like, you know, who do you want to feature, you know? So he would just do people's backs.
And he would organize it like that.
Yeah, he would do people's backs, you know, just generic people, and then he would put, like, the featured people, the aunts, uncles, grandfathers, or whatever, and he would take pictures of them and then put them in, like, key places.
In those spots, yeah.
And not, you know, like, kind of show, like, over people's backs, you know, like, so you see the front of them. So he'd work in certain people then, too, you know.
How'd it come out?
They came out great, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, you gotta look online, look up live event painting, and you'll see people that do this stuff, you know.
Okay.
And, you know, they don't do it with watercolors, you know,
No.
I think it's impossible to do, like,
Yeah.
And, you know, but this is, you know, a lot of times when I go places, I'll sit down and do them, and people come to me. But, you know, every once in a while I do them where I walk around, you know. And this is over, for like 10 years now, I've been getting a schedule over at Cold Spring Harbor Lab. They have, like, things where scientists from all over the world come in, they stay for about a week. And before they leave, they usually have like a cocktail hour and a dinner the night before they leave. And sometimes they have a picnic, you know, right on the grounds, you know, they have a beach area there.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I usually go, they give me a schedule, I go about 15 times a year. And it's really cool meeting all these scientists that are into genetics, you know. So I keep on asking when they're going to work on the head, you know. And this is like one of the ways I do them from photographs, you know. And, you know, like this is with markers and pastels. And here's another one. And this was a group of 4 people that all worked together. So they give you a list of what they like, you know, cheesecake and yogurt, makes their own jewelry and beads, and, you know, they like Manhattan. You know, this one likes, eating at restaurants and gardening and all that stuff. The only reason why I have these two that are finished is because when I sent the guy the pictures, like, they're done, and then we send it to you, and to show him like the pictures and wait for the final payment before I sent these out. He told me that with these two I had the wrong heads on the wrong bodies. So I was like, oh, okay. So I redid them, with the right heads on, and I kept these. But this is like one way. This is like almost what I do live when I'm doing color, but it's a little more. It's a lot more
How long
elaborate.
does it usually take you when you do?
I don't know. They take a while. They take a couple hours from start to finish. You try to come up with a layout and figure out what you can work in, all the crazy things they tell you. Very few of them come through. Usually it's business things because they have the money.
Yeah.
This is one that was a watercolor and some markers.
That's good.
But this is the guy. And one thing I learned about this one is he has a business. He's like a lawyer, and he wanted a whole bunch of things too. They want all these little things, So they try to work everything in. But one thing I learned about this was, like, he's a lawyer, and he lives down in the Cayman Islands, I think it is. Yeah. So he sent me a check from a bank down there, and whatever, I sent him the thing, and then I found out that nobody would cash a check because it wasn't an American bank. So then I found out that when they do things from people that aren't in America, I have to tell them I need a check drawn on an American bank.
Right.
That way I can cash it.
And that was through the internet that he contacted you?
Yeah. That's what I wanted to ask you guys later on. If anybody had experience with paintings on the internet and everything. But this is another one. This is fire, and these are two of the best pictures. I always ask people to send me send me multiple pictures of the person that they want drawn, because they can send you 3 or 4 pictures and it looks like 3 or 4 different people most of the time. So you kind of get like a feeling of what the person is. And then the other thing to paint with this is I try to do like a pencil rough and scan it or something, and take a picture of it and send it back to them.
Yeah.
Like I get a deposit first, and then you get the pencil rough and you send it to them. They always say like, well, his face isn't really that bad. It looks like that in the picture, but it's whatever. And it's just like a lot of changes. And sometimes you end up doing it where it doesn't look like the pictures at all.
Was he happy with this
Oh
outfit?
yeah.
He caught his smile there with this.
What do you charge for something like that?
I don't know, you try to get whatever you could.
That's a hard measure,
So you don't have a fixed price
No,
for like
I don't
8
want,
by 10?
I don't want, no.
16 by 20?
I like working on 11 by 14s.
11 by 14?
But sometimes you end up going bigger. I don't want to put prices for these on the web at all because, it depends on how soon they want them. Sometimes you get like a month, sometimes they want it sooner,
Yeah.
But there's another couple, and they want to be ballroom dancing.
I like that.
This is another one of like this guy, at a trade show or something. Here's just more, Oh, and here's a close-up of the woman with the divorce party. Yeah, she wanted this thing like every ending brings a new beginning, and with butterflies, and she liked going with her friends to some piano bar, like at night. So she wanted that, with a guy playing piano, Pass those around. And here's one I didn't need.
Okay.
But yeah, and then every once in a while you get all different requests. This is from Walker and Company that was doing something with this thing, ESPN's Game Day. And then this guy, what's his name, Tom Arnold, he had a show. And so they wanted these painted on football helmets, and then they gave them to the guys and they had them on the TV show that day.
And what did you paint? Those real helmets or plastic?
Oh, no, yeah, they're real helmets, and they wanted them with, we did it with acrylic,
Oh, okay.
and then sent it out, and they did whatever they do to them, they like bake it in or something.
Oh, okay.
But that's the way the helmets start, and then you put the logos on somehow, and they bake them on.
That's really cool. That's good.
So Marty, when they contact you and they send you the pictures, how long is it before the transaction? What, do they say, will you finish it within a week?
No, I don't usually do them within a week, because I mostly work on weekends, and I work full-time, so I tell them I do these at night, like a little bit at a time. And just, like coming up with the layout, and if they want logos and different things.
What's the
like,
time limit would take you to finish something, say like this?
I don't know, a lot of times, maybe 2 weeks to a month or something.
2 weeks to a month?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, they don't come all that often because you start giving prices, and a lot of people, unless it's a business, a lot of people never hear from them again.
Yeah.
But this is
And you have to work fast.
all right.
Oh, you lost a little weight.
Yeah, this is from these are like two layouts for a company.
Wow.
This is pretty big. It was like those sheets of watercolor paper that you buy. It was like was it like 30 by 22 by whatever.
Red gray pies, that
Yeah,
must be.
Yeah, the Arches watercolor paper, the full sheets. That's what this was. But they did a whole list of everybody, and what I did is I've done like 10 years ago. I did another thing for this, a similar thing for this group. It was for Deutsche Bank, and this was like 10 years ago. They had one of the guys leaving, and they had all these people that represent all these different countries, and they wanted like a newspaper to say whatever farewell and how Wall Street was going to crash. And the news of his retirement. So that was that. And then he called me up again just this past summer. And he had a new group and a new guy, this guy in the middle that's going to be retiring. So, what I did with them is I went there and I, took pictures. I had one guy we started talking about ideas, for like doing a group. And, I could get a feeling of like where they work and everything, So I took a lot of pictures, and they had a guy like put his feet up on a desk. And then, she's like the one that's taking, the guy who's retiring, she's taking his place. And she's like one of the only women in the group. And she's like, she thinks like, this guy, everything is a mess, and it's like, she's taking his name, like, good to see you go, So, just, getting to meet the people, and then I drew them there. I drew the headshots there, and that way I could take them home and work on them, and I knew that they, would like the heads, And then there was a couple of people that weren't there, so they sent me photographs. But, this ends up being the finished one now. And, like I said, this was a big one.
And what medium did it?
Well, this is pretty much watercolors also. I did like just for like the outlines of the heads, I used a little bit of marker.
The marker, fine marker?
Yeah, but the rest of it was watercolor.
Let's see that.
But they have all little things, like this guy, he treated me as a guest, so a little guest on his bathroom.
Yeah.
All these little things that I worked in.
Little personality quirks.
Yeah. This one like 10 pound here?
Oh, I don't think so. I think it's just maybe,
Right. And then here's one, this I just wanted to show you, this is like, tell you a little bit more, yeah. Like this is one I just did recently. And I blew these pictures up, just to work on and get an idea. But this is all the same guy.
Yeah.
And they look like him, And I like, I happen to like this picture of him. I just find that I like to do more people, more thinner faces,
Yeah.
you know, as opposed to people with rounder faces,
Yeah.
especially when I'm doing them live. And the way to tell is, like a lot of times I have people hold their pictures up. When I draw them, I have them hold the picture up and take a picture of them.
Okay.
And when I go back home again, like you look at them, and I could see, like over the years, how I just felt comfortable with people with, like, you know, long and narrow faces than I am with, you know, like fat faces, you know? And, you know, it's something that I have to force myself to work on. But basically, just to give you an idea, like, you know, she didn't like this, the first one I did, and I'll show you the picture. Yeah, this is the first one I did, based on this picture.
Okay.
And, you know, she didn't like it. And she kept on telling me his hair is lighter on top, you know?
Yeah.
Even though none of these pictures look that way. And, now then, you know, so whatever, she says his face is rounder. So I did these next. Like, these were kind of quick market things, you know, just to get like improved. So I went with some of the, you know, some of the rounder faces.
Yeah.
You know, this one I didn't like, but I thought, well, maybe she will. And I made the hair a little lighter, and with that one I made the hair even lighter. So it was like test things, show her. And so she ended up liking this one. And she told me, like his chin is still too pointy, so I made it rounder.
Yeah.
I'll show you the real one. And she said his hair is even lighter.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just some of the stuff you go through. I mean, like, you know, with these pictures, his hair to me is not light, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, you know, and also he was just getting a new Jeep, and this was his Christmas present,
Yeah.
you know, and she wanted to show him, like, with his Jeep, you know. So, and he was going to be 50 also, you know. So, you know, this ends up being big. She wanted like a big poster, you know, so I ended up doing this on the size of the, you know, the big, what do they call that, the arches, sheet of paper
Yeah.
also, yeah,
Full sheet.
that filled it up. You had the frayed edges, I just cropped them off, you know. But, you know, like, you know, just working on like the layout, you know, and stuff, and then doing the rendering. This was a big one. It wasn't like an 11 by 14, right? But yeah, I made his hair even lighter. You know?
Yeah.
So all these steps along the way, like, you know, you get things that people say, and, you know.
She was happy with the final outcome?
Yeah.
Now, to
Let's
get
hope
those
so.
reproductions, do you take a picture of them, or do you scan them, or
What do you mean?
to get the one you're showing us?
Yeah, I take digital photos, yeah, and I just get them printed out. Yeah, we'll get into some of the paintings in a little while, but yeah, this is kind of like painting. Yeah, this was, oh, I don't know. This was in Brooklyn, when I went to jury duty, and she was the person that, you know, was in charge, like when everybody's there, and she calls out the names and tells everybody what to do and everything. And I did a sketch of her, and the lady next to me was like, you gotta give that to her, you know. So I figured, hey, maybe I'll go off jury duty if I give it. So I liked it. So what I did is I waited till we had a break, and then I went down to I went down, it was in Brooklyn somewhere, in, you know, whatever building. So I went down, I found a window, and I put up against the window, I did tracing so I could have one. And after lunch, I went, and right before lunch was over, I went and I gave it to her. And, yeah, she loved it. And she, you know, she was a black woman, you know. And she just said, you know, you caught the attitude, you know. And then these were 4 years later when I got called back again to Brooklyn. And these were, you know, these were done with like the brush pens.
Yeah.
And what I like to put in them, I have one that has water, and then I have one that has black and one that has sepia. But I like to buy the not waterproof sepia and black. So, you know, when you hit it, it fuzzes, you know, and if you really hit it with water, it'll, you know, bleed all over. But these were people that were sitting around me, like, and then this was a guy that I did a quick sketch of, I don't know, wherever he Swiss trains, like Jamaica or something like that.
Yeah.
And he was on a platform, you know, and, you know, he had a backpack, and they just kind of sketched him out really quick, you know?
Yeah.
And then, oh, yeah, I got a story with my niece. See, that was all a couple of years ago. And then this past summer, I got called for jury duty again. And, and I was there for a month. It was on a grand jury. And they had like all these assistant DAs that would come in all the time, and tell you about all the drunk drivers, And basically, in between, like they tell you to come at 10 o'clock, and then they tell you the cop couldn't make it, so, just go to the other room and play games or whatever, and wait till 11 o'clock, we have another one. So right away, everybody would either go to the other room and play games, or they would just sit there and whip out their smartphones. And I have like a flip phone, which isn't any fun, And so I got bored, and what I started doing was going to the other courts, the real courts, And because we were just us, and we would have like a cop come in and tell a story or whatever, And but I would go to the other courts, where they have real people, going up in front of judges and everything. And what I did is, I would just sit there. At first I had like a little piece of paper with a pen, a ballpoint pen. I would just go and sit there. And when you're sitting down like in the rows, like kind of like the audience, or the public or the people waiting for the judge or whatever, behind all the seats in front of you, they have signs like no electronic devices in court, So, I was just, just sitting there, and I was doing sketches and stuff. And then as time went on throughout the month, I started getting more and more comfortable with it. And I started taking watercolor pads. So I went in one day, and I went, and we had to wait, and I went into a court, and there's, the first time I took a watercolor pad with me, and it was towards the end of the month, I was getting daring, so I didn't realize, but the court was like very empty, So it was like only me and another guy sitting on the other side, and they had somebody in front of the judge, and I guess the other guy was waiting or whatever. And so I did this really quick, but basically I started here, like at the in-gallery truss, and I just roughed in the flags and started her, and all of a sudden, just getting into it, and I hear no electronic devices in the courtroom. So I'm just sitting there, and then I hear it again, and I'm saying, I think she's talking to me, So I look up, I'm like, you're talking to me? And she's like, yeah. And, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, no, I said, I don't have anything. So I held up the brush pen, and I said, I'm just sketching. And she's like, sketching? And off to the side, there's like two guys that sit there. I don't know what they do.
Security, maybe?
No, they're in suits. They're probably lawyers or something. But, she like goes and starts talking to them, and they're looking at each other, and they talk to her, and right away I'm like, right away I'm like, oh, the paranoia is setting in. Who is this guy? What's he doing here? What's he want with me? So then she told me something, and like in the grand jury, they're so specific with the charges against everybody, and she told me something. I forget what she said, but exactly. But then I said, so I'm not allowed to sketch. And she goes, I have it written here somewhere. But I said something like, I'm not allowed to sketch. And she goes, oh yeah. And she goes, not generally. So, being so specific with the grand jury, I repeated, I was like, not generally? And then, so when I said that, the guard came over, like he came over to me, and I thought like, oh, this is where I got arrested. So I stood up, and I tried to make it to the door. And he met me like right at the door, and I showed him what I had, and I was like, I'm in the grand jury and bored. I said, I'm an artist, and I'm waiting for the grand jury again, so I'm just sketching, And he just took a quick look, and then he's like, all right, go. So but I thought he invited back to college. So anyway, I was like, So I just worked on this one. I didn't really go back to anymore. But I put these people in from previous like pencil sketches I did, like in other days. So I just, whatever.
Let's see that one, Marty.
Yeah. Here's a little story. A little story that goes with it.
Yeah.
And then this was, one of the whatever lawyers that would come in and talk all the time. And, you know, it was like a lot of drunk driving cases, you know. So basically, like I had sketches of her, and then I put together this thing almost like an editorial cartoon, you know, of all the stuff we would hear from scratch over and over and over again that we knew she was going to say, you know, with all the charges. Yeah, well, this is a watercolor also. I belong to a cartooning club that meets once a month over in Huntington, and they have a lot of cartoonists that, you know, worked on comic books back in the 50s and stuff like that, you know. And you know, every month for Halloween they have like kind of like a grab bag, you know, like everybody does a Halloween cartoon, and you know, you kind of put it in, and then you write your name on $1. And whichever one is on top of the pile, when they call you a name, you get that, you know, from another artist, you know. So, you know, this was one I did 1 year. And then, yeah, like, whatever, I gave this one away, you know. So a couple of years later, I did another one that I could keep, you know, for me. This was a little animation also. When I first got my computer, you know, I did a little animated GIF when Clinton was having his, you know, problems with Lewinsky, you know. So, you know, I had a couple of frames, and as he's like flipping the cards, I had the stars go from stars to hearts.
Did you get any requests for that?
No, not really. And these are other, like, I'm doing kind of like political things every once in a while, you know.
Clinton and Bush.
Yeah, so sex between the bushes, you know. And, you know, this is when, this was another one that gave away the Halloween thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's, what's her name, Sarah Palin and Michael, what's his name, the guy from Arizona.
Okay, McCain.
McCain, yeah.
Yeah,
I was going to say Michael
and then you
Caine.
got the Marx Brothers there too?
Yeah, Marx Brothers talking about Sarah Palin and, you know, bushes. And, oh, this is one of my other friends. He's an artist, and I did a caricature of him and his wife, actually, you know, because he was moving from New York to Seattle. And this is two versions of a shirt that I did. That I actually sold a couple on the web, but never made any money yet. But this is about like the whole gas fracking thing. This is the one that sells. This one doesn't sell, even though you think this one would.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The one says, yeah, stop the Republicans, and the other one stop the upstate gas fracking. So, but this is the one that sells.
So,
Oh, and then one of the other things, I started another website, just kind of for fun and to work in pictures and illustrations into stories, you know. And I call it UFOnies, and it's kind of like a UFO thing, but like, kind of like a humorous UFO thing. And you try to get linked into the other UFO sites, but they don't want anything to do with you if you're humorous. You know,
yeah,
because
it's very serious.
because they're real UFO sites, you know. And so this is one of the things I did, and here's the original. You know, it's John Lennon when he had his what they call a Lost Weekend, which was like about a year and a half long.
Wow.
In mid-70s, where him and he kind of broke up with Yoko and was with this girl May Pang.
Yeah.
And you know, they basically, there's a story that they saw a UFO, you know, in this Dakota apartment. So, well, no, some other apartment he was in at the time with her on the east side or something. So, you know, I looked up the story, and you know, I did my own little story about it, like from the alien point of view. It was like a girl alien that they were going to go and they were going to abduct him, but then, you know, then they started with a girl or whatever, you know. So what happened with this was I went to, I had it in my jacket pocket. I had it in my jacket because this woman, May Pang, about 2 years ago, she came out with another book of photographs that she took when she was with him. And she was over at the book review in Huntington, and she was signing books, you know. So the place was mobbed. I was way in the back, And I had this under my jacket because I don't know, I just didn't want to show it and have people see it and everything, whatever. So I asked a question towards the end, about this thing with the UFO stuff, and she said that she had a camera with surveillance film in it. And they went and they grabbed that and they took pictures, but nothing came out, because of the surveillance film or something. And so, I was going to ask her if she would, like sign this instead of the book, And, but I just didn't want to wait online for the whole book. And then the people at the book review, they didn't know if she was signing anything other than the book. So I didn't want to wait, and I didn't bother with it. But what I found happened was, like, a couple of websites picked up the picture, and they didn't even ask me or anything if they would do it. But, I really don't mind because I have this on there. And then like this one, they gave like a line of credit and email a link to my website, where they found a picture from. So it's like, whatever, it's good. It's just more people. Yeah. So, every once in a while you find that. And that one with the guy at the gas station also, I found that on a couple of websites too. So, even with the web, like people, it's good to put your name on stuff. This is like another political cartoon that, actually this one too. This is a watercolor. But these were all stories with that, on that UFO news thing, This is kind of like, like half Roman, half gangster. This is, what's his name? Dick Cheney as Dr. Zetas from Planet of the Apes. And what's his name? Mitt Romney and Hillary Clinton. That's nobody. And this is another one of the Halloween things that I did. And a couple things about this. I have this on my website, and I faked in a couple of, names of songs. And, like, the LSD, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. I made it the PMS, Polar and Mist with Shadows. But I've had people ask, like, where do you get that? And I told them I just made it up, But then, like, I don't know, you probably have a lot of people on Facebook here. Nobody? Okay. But, Okay. But anyway, I went on, I just started a thing on Google+, which is like Facebook, only it's a little bit different. And they have like circles that you put people in, and people put you into their circles and stuff. And I put this picture up, and the first one to put me into a circle was Paul McCartney, believe it or not. So I was like, wow, he actually sees it.
Wow. Pretty cool.
And then these are from some animations that I did when I was at the internet company. Here's with the Flash. They were doing a thing for like a college website, and I kind of like drew this whole college thing. And I had it like it was all blurry and like it kind of zoom into it. And then I had a car pull up and a guy get out and leaves his cup of coffee on the thing and walks away. His little cup of coffee that it zooms into. And then I always like, I went to bowling alley once because I always like the way people bowl. Like the positions they go in. It's really cool, So I tried being inconspicuous one night, but it didn't work. Just sitting in a bowling alley, like, in the middle where the lanes are on both sides and like sketching. And, people realize what you're doing, even though it's noisy and everything, So, anyway, they, whatever, like these people, they found out what I was doing, and they told me, come on over, so I ended up sketching them. And I, did a whole animation thing, where she throws a ball and he throws it and she sits down and somebody else gets up. And at the end, I have it, the thing comes down and instead of dropping off pins, it drops off, beer bottles. This is another one with like a guy at work, kind of like daydreaming, that he's at the beach, and all of a sudden, like, he's back at work again, and he has different things going on. There's another one like people at a restaurant where it kind of goes over her shoulder and zooms in. They talk to this guy and he walks past the kitchen or whatever. This is another thing where I had like a flash effect where you could go with your it's still on the web, but you could go with your mouse, and, you know, if you put your mouse over these people, this is kind of like aliens, like looking at them, like the little canisters on a spaceship or whatever. But if you go over your mouse with this, it's like a jello effect, they call it, where they actually, you know, get like those, almost like those mirrors.
Distorted.
in Carnival. They actually go left and right and up and down, they, you know, so it's like a fun little thing to play with. And these are, over the years, like different holiday cards I've done for the company I work for. You know, this one's like a still one that just has snow coming down. This one's another one. They're a camera company, but you know, they make all kinds of things for cameras, like filters, basically for cameras. So, you know, then this, and it had snow coming down in the background. Now, this was an animation where these things would open up and you know, have the words coming out. Like this one has the words coming out here, and then it, you know, had their logo, and like it had the Christmas music, and we all started dancing. You know, the boxes. You know, this one was a snow globe that, you know, the snow moves and, you know, the words come in. You know, and then things like this, you know. Yeah, all right, we'll go on with the paintings. But, yeah, this is what I spend a lot of time on, you know, just like on the web, like trying to keep my name, trying to keep, trying to keep current, like, you know, when you do searches, this is like, you know, search for wedding this on Google, like a wedding caricature artist, and like, you know, that's where I come up. Sweet 16 party caricatures, you know, come up there. You know, so I try to keep that way where I could, you know, I've been lucky where I come up on the first page with a lot of things, you know, so that's how I get a lot of my business.
How do you get up onto the first page?
I don't know, you just look at it. I mean, you know, there's a whole bunch of different things. You know, like, first off, I got into the web early, I guess, and they say that has something to do with it. You know, that still have the same website and everything, but, you know, aside from that, like I have a blog, which, you know, since I made it, it shows up first also. But then I realized that blogs, like mine's kind of backwards, where I have the early stuff, I have it all as one page. I don't use one of those cookie cutter things, like I have a lot of like blog stuff. But I made my own blog, and I basically have like the early stuff is still first, and you know, then the current stuff is at the bottom, which is like backwards.
How come? Mine is the other way.
Yeah,
I have
well,
a blog.
I didn't know it. I didn't know it.
Is it how you set it up?
Yeah, I didn't know it as I did it.
Can't you reverse it though, now?
I can't know why, because I think Google likes different things.
Oh,
You know, so if you type in caricature blogs, for years, ever since I made it, it comes up first.
okay.
It still does.
No, but I mean, can't you keep your current blog and just change the order of it, or no?
Probably, but at the top, what I did is I have a link saying if you want to go to current stuff, click here. And it takes you
Okay.
right down to the bottom. You know.
Okay.
But basically, I figured new people are coming to it, so why, you know, it doesn't matter where it starts. I might as well start with the
True.
early stuff. You know.
Yeah, mine starts at the current.
Well, most of them do. After a couple of years, I had an artist call me up and tell me you have it backwards, and I was like, oh, okay, it works.
It works for you.
It's like New Jersey, it's backwards.
Yeah, yeah. Google likes that. You know, we do things different. But this is something else that I started doing. Just kind of fooling around with the camera, like faces in strange places. You know,
I
these
think
guys,
that's cool. I've seen that.
you know, this one's hard to see if it looks like two eyes, and you know. This one looks like kind of like a skull over here. I don't know if you could tell, but this one, you know, it has like lighter areas, or it looks like a tree yawning. And this one, I just did this, but I cracked open 2 eggs, and one of them was like twins. You know, I don't know if you ever got that, but first time I saw it. And this is a thing. Oh, where is she? Yeah, I was talking to you the other day about this. This is like a paper sculpture. You know, I fooled around with this a little bit. Yeah, it's like all kisses around. But it's kind of like paper that's all scored and folded. And,
That's cool.
you know, a lot of times you could do it without even painting paper at all, just with white, and you do it all with the shadows.
Like Robert Redford?
That's right, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid.
Yeah. Robert Redford, yeah.
Look how they're sitting there.
These are more, this was old stuff, but this is more like kind of cartoony stuff in a way, and now it goes more realistic a little bit. But, this was something I did a long time ago. I feel like I'm thinking now with like the blue lines, blue lights.
Is that
Marty, can you
airbrush?
put it up so they can see?
Oh, yeah.
Is that airbrush?
Yeah, that was airbrush. Yeah. These were both done like in the 80s, yeah. This was airbrushed also. And that was kind of like, I don't know, I tried to do like Reagan and Brezhnev, But, yeah. That was that. And then,
No, and that's airbrush inks, or is that on acrylic, or?
no, it's watercolor.
It's watercolor.
Yeah.
And what's it on? Board.
Illustration board.
Do you have any particular favorite? Like on watercolor paper or Bristol
Oh, I
board?
like the watercolor paper now.
Yeah.
Here's another one I did, it was talk.
Nice, just,
Just so I could keep, just so I could have one for myself, if I gave the other one away.
camera.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah.
Keep John Wayne over there in the corner.
And this is a little kind of cartoon. This is done with watercolors also. A little bit of marker, but mostly watercolor. It's like, I don't know if you're familiar with that guy Roger Dean at all. I was kind of playing around with what he does. You ever see that movie Avatar?
Yeah.
Well, that was basically Roger Dean. That he kind of got the credit for, and everybody was saying that's not original. But he has all these things like the floating pieces of land and everything, and that's kind of where I got the idea for that thing. This was for mailing years I did. Yeah, that was way back when also.
That was for a what?
Okay.
Like a mailing piece I did. That was like the inside.
Yeah, cheers.
Okay.
And this is a watercolor also.
Yeah.
Here's another watercolor. This was for a record album, and it had
Put this up here so they can see it too.
some of the people were real. This guy was real, and these two are my daughters. And then the other ones they faked in, whatever, just made up.
Your daughter sang on that.
Yeah, my daughter sang on this with this guy and everything. But this was just coming up with like making up a logo also, and stuff like that. This was another one for Halloween. But this one I made a print of, I kept it, but the frame, the matting on this is too close. But it fits good enough, I just leave it at home. But, that was another Halloween thing. You know what that is?
Bonnie and Clyde? Or?
Yeah, it was from one of your photographs. So I just kind of doctored it up a little bit.
Wow.
These are, I don't know, over the years, I think I took these in at one point. But this was a place I went out, like plein air painting, that I think was called Artist Lake or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Middle Island.
Yeah. And then when I got home, I did most of it there. And when I got home, I added the birds up here, which I liked. And I tried to get fancy and put ducks in, but they didn't work. So I feel like trying to get rid of them now.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's what paintings also?
No, that was That was watercolor.
That's watercolor too?
Yeah, and this is watercolor also.
That's the black.
Yeah, this is the King's Park Bluff, yeah, and I put the guy in fishing later on.
You hold that a little higher, Marty, so I could see, yeah.
Yeah, this is before the storm, because now this is all land, and they got a break further back, you know? You could actually walk out on here now. Yeah, that was a watercolor. You know, they were done like live, pretty much. And then, oh yeah, got that. Yeah, this was, again, with that brush pen. And it was done at the, you know, the free concerts they have. Like, this was one over in Smithtown.
Okay.
They got this thing, it's like a big stage, you know, the lights up here.
Uh-huh.
And then there was a storm that came.
Oh.
It was like, the sky got real dark and it was lightning, and these guys realized it and they were like, we gotta stop, you know? So. Oh yeah, let me show you this first. Yeah, this was another one, plain air thing. Over at that,
Operator.
Operator.
yeah, they are cutting.
Yeah.
Right.
So I,
They are cutting.
yeah, so I was sitting down on one of the chairs they had, you know, and
Yeah.
just sat there and sketched that out. And you always think like you're gonna take it home and work on it and fix it up, but you never do. This is another one over in, I edited the car later on.
I
You know,
love
like,
the car.
you know what it was? This one I did live, over at, the Smithtown side of Blydenburg. You know, they have this little thing, it's like a garage,
Yeah.
and they had a tree there, so I went around and kind of like, you know, did separate little sketches, and, you know, then I had this old car, and I tried to do like another Bonnie and Clyde type of thing. So I put them in later on, but, yeah, that was fun to do. And then this one is one I took in just a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, this was on my way out to New Jersey back in the middle of December. And, yeah, it was in a, you know, it was a day when it started snowing out here,
Right.
like about 10 o'clock in the morning. And I had a thing starting at 7 o'clock in New Jersey. So I left my house like right away at about 10:30 I left.
Yeah.
And it took about 3 hours to get to the area. And, you know, then I was just driving around. I stopped at a gas station and, you know, took some pictures of this truck. It looked really cool. I was taking pictures of different things. I like this one best.
I think you captured that very nice.
Yeah, and then I, you know, whatever, put it together as a watercolor.
Snowy.
I know, I didn't want to put down like things of snow on it.
No.
But,
It's like a cold night.
but yeah, it was probably like around 3 in the afternoon, you know.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
And then, too bad Freddie isn't here. Because I got,
Yeah.
you know, we were talking, the last time I was here, you know, he was talking to my father about some of the things he does.
Yes.
So I got 2 of my father's paintings now.
Oh, okay. So that's where you get your talent.
Yeah. Yeah, he was always in advertising. And,
Wow.
you know, this was, again, you know,
You see
just,
the draftsmanship there.
yeah. But just being on the web, like one thing leads to another, you know? And, you know, somehow somebody saw some of the stuff I had, and it was a company in Manhattan that owned a bunch of buildings. And they wanted like a picture of some of the different buildings they owned. So, you know, my father, you know, this was like a job for him. So yeah, he enjoyed it. He went to the city and he took pictures, you know, tons of pictures of all these buildings and everything. And put
And
this.
that was right after 9/11. I
Oh,
go with a camera, and I'm shooting all these pictures. I'm surprised the cops didn't stop me.
yeah.
Wow.
Is it watercolor or colored pencil?
No, it's watercolor
Watercolor.
and pen and ink.
Yeah, and then here's another one.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, you can tell about this one.
That one, they started just a building in the middle.
Yeah, this building.
It's 28 West 44th Street. They wanted that drawing, so I did it. And they looked at, well, give me the whole street. So I did the street, and said, now go across the street. Now go back to Bryant Park, and then down to Times Square. I said, wait a minute, this thing kept building.
Wow,
It's really something.
it's nice the way
Then
you
they labeled all the
design.
hotels, all the food places, yeah.
Wow, very nice.
And this was before they had the Google Map thing.
That's right, before that.
Right,
Yeah, it would have been a lot easier just to go on Google,
yeah, just move it around.
sketch it out.
How do you know the rooftops?
Did you go into any buildings?
I think, yeah, I went into all of those, I took pictures of all the fronts, but the tops, what I did is, I faked a lot of it. And then I had the thing you just see from the top, you know, on the computer that just had the top thing.
Oh, yes,
So I
yeah,
did
the
that.
shape of it, right. Nice idea, it's a good idea.
No rooftop gardens. They will accept it.
Does anybody have questions?
So many of you guys,
Are you doing this full-time now, Marty, or you have another job?
yeah, I still work full-time.
You still got a regular job
Yeah.
you're doing?
Yeah,
So
so I
you-
do this on weekends,
On weekends?
nights, whatever.
Good.
What's your regular job?
Well, I'm in the art department at this place, Tiffin. They make, in the photography industry, like the grandfather, back in '38, I guess, they started their business making filters for cameras. And that's still their bread and butter.
Oh,
But they bought other companies now, like Steadicam, you know, and lighting companies, and, you know, they have about 10 different product lines, you know.
you're doing good then.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much in the marketing department. I'm their in-house graphic artist, you know,
Oh,
so, keep busy with that,
yeah.
especially around trade show time. You know, it's like, make posters, make this, make that. But, yeah, so I was just curious as far as if anybody had experience on any of these things on the websites, like Etsy and stuff like that, where a lot of people sell paintings, whether it's prints or originals.
Some of the people, they have, I know Roseanne had sold some of her stuff on, I think, Fine Art, you know, some of the prints, or some people are involved in that,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, because that's something that I've been starting to look into, you know, to see, you know,
Yeah,
if I could find one that works good or whatever, you know.
you seem to be doing very good with your website.
Well, yeah, with that, but, you know, one of my friends keeps on calling me up, telling me, you gotta start making
You're
videos.
gonna branch out.
No, he says, one of my friends, actually the guy from the internet company, keeps on calling me up and telling me, we gotta start doing training videos. Because how much longer are you gonna be able to keep on going out doing this?
That's actually a very good idea.
I know, and that's
Is
one of
that
the things.
profitable too?
I think so. That's one of the things, like I listen to NPR a lot, and that was
Yeah.
one of the things they were just talking about. How, like one woman that always did, they give a couple of examples of some different websites that people would do stuff on.
I've seen that, yeah.
And like one woman that would always go around giving lectures and everything about body language,
Okay.
that she, you know, lit up her room and she put like she got a little smartphone and propped it up on books and stood there and you just started doing body language stuff and talking about it. And now she basically doesn't go out anymore. She sells all these off the web. And, you know, a lot of people are starting to do that, you know. So, I don't know, it might be something.
And
to
you
it.
can put little samples on like YouTube,
Yeah,
and then you have them connected to your website,
yeah,
and then they buy the videos from there.
yeah. So that's one of the things, like, I actually did start doing a couple of videos, you know, and, you know, it's really hard.
Is it on YouTube, the videos that you have?
Not with those type of things. you know.
Okay,
I mean, I have a couple of things on YouTube. You look at my name on YouTube,
right.
like some of these animations and stuff are on there, but
Okay.
not, you know, not like.
Not instructional, it's just,
Yeah, not instructional.
okay.
Yeah, that I'm starting to work on.
That's what
That's the internet taking off now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it really, you know, with this caricature stuff, it's a business that really works good on it, you know.
Yes.
So I was just wondering how paintings would go.
Yeah. I've seen some of the people on the internet that do, like, you'll see advertisements, the characters, what they charge, and, you know, they're advertising their website. You know.
Well, some people say like, you know, caricatures for, you know, $25, you know, whatever, you know, like, you know, whatever you want,
Yeah,
type of stuff, you know, so. I don't know. But
that's interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people don't put prices on it really. I'd
No.
rather have people email you and talk to them, find out where it is, when it is, all that stuff.
House portraits.
Yeah.
Are you, I mean, your work is unique and every artist, you know, has their own unique style in that, but are you concerned about putting it on the internet? You know, that people will copy it and
As far as what?
copying your work, you know, if you put something to advertise to sell it, you would probably put examples up or samples for
What,
people
like-
to look at.
Like with the caricatures? Or?
Yeah, for anything that you do.
Not so much with the caricatures. I've heard stories where, like some of the guys that are really good, that I consider really good, you know, that really catch things and stuff, like some guys who work for Mad Magazine and all that,
Yeah,
like they have samples, and I've heard stories where, like when they come to Manhattan and go walking around, they'll see like some of the guys around Central Park that do caricatures will have their samples up. You know, and like people don't know, you know, they see like a cool sample and they sit down and while the guy is doing it, and that's not his work, and it's not gonna look anything like that, you know. And I've seen pictures where the guys, like, they come to New York and they find their samples in somebody's thing, and they take pictures with the guy, with their thing. And, you know, these guys, they don't understand. So, but,
Do you get any calls, like say, like you mentioned the bar mitzvah, or, you know, maybe a party, a young child party, and they say, can you come and do some caricatures?
oh yeah, well, that's what you do all the time.
You getting that
Yeah.
pretty regular?
Yeah, either emails or phone calls. You know.
Okay, so you keep busy on the weekend?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's good.
I mean, you have to show up pretty good with Google. You know, some people pay to be in those right-hand column ad things, you know, otherwise you show up naturally, natural search.
Yeah.
I think one of the best deals you had when you did them on a boat.
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, one of my friends,
How'd that work?
that was fun. Yeah, one of my friends, he used to do a lot. He'd get booked on the QE2
Okay.
and do caricatures there for like, for the length of the trip.
Right,
So I only did it twice, and then my kids were born.
okay.
So we never got to do it again. But it was like a great vacation, where you could take one person with you, and I think it was $25, at the time it was $25 a day. And we went to some place in the Caribbean. The first time was 10 days. We left from New York and went down to the Caribbean and came back again. The second time was probably 10 days also. And we went up to, we were supposed to get down to Bermuda, but then at the last minute they changed it and we went up north to like Halifax and Martha's Vineyard and Bal Harbour.
Did you enjoy that?
The first one was great, down to the Caribbean. And the second one, when I went up north, was like a disaster.
Really?
Yeah, because, well, it was fun for us because basically you're paying $25 a day.
Yeah.
You work 2 times during the day for 45 minutes at a time. And the rest of the time you're like a passenger.
Your leisure time.
The only thing you pay for is drinks, you know. Everything else is free.
Everything else, the food and
Yeah,
everything.
but when I went to Bal Harbour and Halifax and all that, Bal Harbour, the 2 places in the U.S., Bal Harbour and Martha's Vineyard, it's too shallow, so they had to keep the ship out at sea
Keep it fun, so it don't
and
go.
have the 10-year things going back and forth. But when I went to Martha's Vineyard, it was fog the whole day, and they weren't doing the tenders, they weren't doing them. So everybody was like waiting, and the fog never lifted.
They're stuck on the ship.
Yeah, so you're stuck on a ship all day. And then they went up, and they were able to pull into both Halifax and Nova Scotia, you know, right into the city. So that was nice getting out. Now on the way back, they stopped at, I think it was, I don't figure it was either Bal Harbour or Martha's Vineyard. And that was in, I think 1993 and 94. And that was the one where it made the news because when they were leaving, it hit something. We were having dinner, and all of a sudden there was like turbulence on the airplane, like a loud noise. And everybody went and you asked the waiters, like, what was that? And the waiters are like, we don't know, we never
We
heard that.
can't say anything.
Well, they never heard that before. Yeah, and then, so anyway, all of a sudden then the ship's engine stopped.
Oh, boy.
And then we saw through the dining room comes all these officers, about 4 or 5 officers come running from one end of the dining room to the other, all dressed in white, and they just ran through. And then the whole night long, the ship just stayed there. And they hit something under the water.
Yeah.
And then they had the yellow thing around the ship, and you can see like an oil slick. So it actually had a hole in it.
Oh, that's why I don't take no cruises.
Yeah.
Just this week, I think, Royal Caribbean
Yes.
was,
But that was on the way home, and the next morning we were supposed to come into New York, right? And my father was going to pick us up. So, my father didn't hear about it, So anyway, he's coming to pick us up like at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. He's driving to Manhattan and he hears it on the radio. The QE2 is stuck in whatever, Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah.
And he's like, what? And he's driving in.
Yeah, just think about it, you're retired, right?
yeah.
For $25 a day, you go around the world, spend the whole year at $25 a day. Think about it. You can't do that now.
No expenses and you get $25.
Right, $25 a day.
For only
All
2
you
sessions
eat,
a
you
day?
drink, and you party.
Now, what if you wanted to do it, are you not allowed to do extra on your own?
No, they didn't want you to take tips. They didn't want,
Because you were employed by them.
Right, basically,
Yeah.
yeah.
But he wanted to do it too, like,
I'm still down.
some way because they have all kinds of people that do different things,
Right.
Like even origami might be nice,
Yeah.
to do it on a ship, But,
And probably even with your, they take your card and they might contact you.
well, yeah, you could give out cards and stuff,
Yeah.
But,
So you draw people, you draw the,
yeah, well, just like
people
a
on the
party.
ship,
Just like a party. They set me up in a bar,
Yeah.
and like before lunch, 45 minutes I go, and then before dinner for 45 minutes I go. And,
See, Mike Parisi used to do sketches too in
Street fairs.
street fairs
Yeah.
and stuff. It would have been nice if he was here to see, the discussion also.
yeah. But that's, I've done a couple street fairs. I don't like doing them. They were, it's the weather, and then you gotta have
And
light.
it's, to do that, I've seen it done in Hicksville where they had like a little carnival, and somebody was doing that. They do one right after another.
Oh, yeah, I've done Hicksville,
It could
actually,
be tiresome, I guess, like,
Yeah.
I've done Hicksville Street Fair a couple times in the gazebo.
Yes.
Yeah, I've done that a couple times. Like the Chamber of Commerce would hire, certain people to do that,
Yeah.
So it's good if you're being hired, but if you're buying the spot, I don't like doing that, charging by the person. I'd rather be hired by
Yeah,
somebody.
this person was charging by the person,
Yeah.
and he was doing good.
Yeah, I'd rather be hired by somebody and just do it for free. That way you don't have to worry about like
Yeah,
charging
getting them
people.
fixed, yeah.
Well, when you did that stuff on the ship, did you hand the pictures to them, or did they have to pick them up after and buy
No,
them
you
from
just
the
hand
ship?
it to them.
You just hand?
Yeah.
So, not everybody gets one actually, because you couldn't do everybody on the
Oh,
whole
no.
ship. So it's just who's ever there and how it
Yeah, well, that's
works
the
out.
hard part, telling everybody like,
Yeah.
the last one, you three, the last three.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wow, we were waiting.
yeah.
Yeah, you get that a lot. That's the most stressful time of the party is
Right.
trying to prepare for leaving.
All right.
Where did you get those paint pens that you were talking about for the watercolor?
The brush pens.
The brush
Oh,
pens?
yeah, you can get them anywhere. There's all different brands now. You fill up, like the pens that you fill up the handle, usually with water,
Okay.
and you squeeze it. But they have a brand, I forget the name, it's a Japanese brand. They have it like Blick.
Bill, do you use anything like that?
Sakura, Koi.
Yeah.
Can you
And I
get
know,
them in the store somewhere?
I know,
Yeah, you can find them at Michael's and you see more sometimes, but they usually sell out fast.
yeah, otherwise Blick
I don't know
has
if
them.
going online, Jerry's Autorama, Blick, or
Can you get the full
Chicho's.
paint pens?
And you said
Ink brushes.
Paintbrushes.
Brush pens.
Yeah, brush, brush.
Brush pens.
Yeah.
But they don't have color in them, do they?
No, they're empty.
They're just
Don't
water.
water or ink or.
And then you use watercolor pencils, or,
No, some of them come with a case of watercolor.
oh,
Or some of them come just with the pen itself.
So you fill
You
it
fill
up
it
with
with
a
water or
watercolor.
ink or anything you want.
Yeah, that way, like if you're sitting in your car or something like that, you know, you could just open up a little bit of watercolors and start
yeah,
using it.
yeah.
Or otherwise, the other thing to have is like
Yeah,
spray
not a
mist.
public site and clog it up.
Yeah, you do something
If
like
you
that.
clean it out well, you could, but.
So you just put water in there?
Well,
And then you dip
yeah.
the brush into the color?
Well, yeah, but I like putting the not waterproof, where I can see through it.
Oh, the ink in there?
Yeah, that way it just comes straight out.
Oh.
And then you could go with like those spring misters and you kind of get the fuzz.
So you get all different types of brushes at the bottom? All different types of sizes of brushes? Or is it just
They
one
have-
size?
Yeah, they have three sizes, small, medium, and large, and they also have one that's like a, kind of like a wide tip.
Okay.
Yeah. I can never find that one.
Okay, any other questions or anything? Anyone, just, so thank you
I
very
got another
much.
question, Marty. You used to be a member years ago, you said?
Yeah, for about 2 years I just stopped coming because I just found it like every month and I felt like
Okay.
every month and I can never make them and you know, just too stressful.
It's good to see you back though.
Yeah, so I figured, whatever, maybe I'll get back into doing some more painting.
Yeah.
So.
Do you ever do any regular, like, other painting, or this is your?
Well, no, I'd like to start doing more stuff like this. You know, like real games, like, you know, plein air.
Like where you did the Arboretum?
Yeah, that, and like the truck, the truck and stuff. Because that seems to be like stuff that, you can get prints on.
Yeah, that's true.
I'd like to start doing something like that, to actually do it, sell it, you know, like get prints.
Yeah. Luke does that. This lady does, some of the, a lot of prints of her painting. Yeah. Right, Luke?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. It's a little different for our group, and it's very exciting, very interesting. It's some nice work.